Hey, folks, and welcome to another episode of the Creator Toolbox. This is the show all about the nuts and bolts behind your creator business. I'm Colin Gray from thepodcasthost.com, joined by Jacob Anderson. As always, how are you getting on, Jacob?
Hello, good. I'm in Spain, so I'm happy.
So slightly better weather than I'm experiencing right now, no doubt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. Recording from, I always often think I need to, as part of the creator lifestyle, isn't it? Get out into lovely places. Actually, doesn't tie you down to anywhere, so we should be able to live anywhere. I don't know why I live in the north of Scotland still. Out this stuff anywhere. Yeah, but anyway, maybe I'll get away sometime. All right, so tools of the week then. What are we going to talk about? Well, I jump into one first. I think you've got a little bit of a different format this time for yours, haven't you? You're wrapping together a couple of things, is that right?
Cheated a little bit. Yeah, well, it's kind of, it's a mindset, it's a tool, but in there is a bunch of other tools. I'm a creator as well, so you go first.
Maybe a quick one, although I think every time I say that, we end up talking about them for like 10 minutes anyway, so we'll see how we go. But potentially quick one is, I thought it was worth mentioning just how we're using ConvertKit in one of the particular ways just now. We're using the RSS feed, which is a way of automatically publishing posts from any given RSS feed. So we publish posts on our blog on thepodcasthost.com, and you can connect up the RSS feed from that, of which is available on just about any blogging platform these days, WordPress, all the rest. So you can pop that in, and then ConvertKit automatically picks up any new posts and then creates a feed from that, or creates a newsletter from that, including everything that's been posted in the last set period. You can get it to go out daily, you can get it to go out weekly. I think you can set the frequency quite nicely, actually. But we decided to set that up maybe 3 months ago, didn't we? Is that about right?
We played about with it with a small audience just to see how it would work. And then, I think it was maybe 2 months ago, something like that. We sent it to the bigger list.
And so it's the kind of thing I've always avoided in the past, because I think the power of our content, the power of most content, is it's pretty personalized. It's custom. People don't really want just a spit out of a list of stuff. But we thought we'd give it a go because we were already doing a personalized email once a week anyway. And then maybe it's an addition to what we're doing. So we set it up. We created I created a little intro with a wee bit of personality just to give people an idea of what it was, and then start putting it out. And it turned out, well, what did we find, Jacob, on the stats?
We found that humans are basically useless, and most of the time that we spent on writing these beautiful personalized emails with lovely anecdotes, big, long, value-packed things every week, that was all for naught, because actually the 80% generated one performs just as well, if not better. It's really sad.
Yeah, close, something like that. Yeah. I think the place where we've got to is that actually the auto-generated list is actually perfect. People really do want just given a list of what have we published in the last little while, and adding a little bit of personalization around it, actually, I think is the best balance. So I do think nowadays, we've got Matthew creating an intro to it. So every week he'll create a new intro, which is just maybe 2-3 paragraphs, takes him maybe 5-10 minutes. It'll be about something that's happening in the company this week, a wee update, or just thoughts on podcasting this week, whatever that might be. Then you've got the list of posts. And then occasionally I'll add in another post or two below that as well, which I want to promote. So maybe it's an episode of this, the Creator Toolbox, maybe it's a podcraft, maybe it's a video, something like that. So what we've ended up with is 80% of the work is done automatically, as in actually collating up-to-date information, up-to-date posts, all that kind of stuff. And then we add a little bit of humanness to it. And actually, I think this has ended up, the open rate was great on the basic RSS feed post, but I think the click rate, the actual action rate, has been creeping up percentage point by percentage point as we keep this kind of personality coming in here and playing around with that in the formats. So I think it's really cool, actually, because it's just a really quick, easy way to actually create a newsletter, which you can still add your own personality to. I think it's kind of a sum up of a lot of how I'm thinking about the wider AI world just now, which is there's no point throwing it out, baby out with the bathwater. Use it as an assistant to take care of the jobs that actually are pretty rote, that it can do very well, and then put your own personality, your own customizations on top of that. And actually, it saves you a whole bunch of time. It lets you just scale what you're doing. So that's what we're doing with it just now. Been really enjoying, been sort of seeing good success with it, haven't we?
Yeah, no, it's been a great tool because it means that we can just focus on that human part of the time. I mean, being being a little bit facetious, but it is probably about 80% generated, and that's great for us as creators because it means that we're free to move on to other things. If Matthew's writing that, he can quickly move on to create more blog content, which feeds the email funnel, and it's great. So really pleased with the way it's worked out.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'd just always thrown it out because I just thought it was way too basic. But yeah, I think it's a great rebalance putting it that way.
Yeah.
All right. What about you? Do you want to jump into a bit of yours then, or is it all in one? Go for it. Dive in.
It's kind of all in one, but the basic premise is I was thinking about I was thinking about for this episode, what creator am I going to talk about? And there's this guy that I've it keeps coming up on my YouTube shorts, basically. And it just sent me down a whole rabbit hole of thinking. So basically, this guy, his business is called Modern Malinois. Malinois being the Belgian Malinois breed of dog. And I just thought, this guy has managed to create a creator business around a sort of physical in-person traditional business that has no business having a global market. You think a dog trainer, and you think of a local place, a regional place that you might go, you take your dog and all that kind of stuff. And I just thought this is a great case study of actually how there are so many businesses that could benefit from creating great content, and actually monetizing a much bigger audience. So I just kind of went down that rabbit hole, and I've broken down a little bit how that might apply to lots and lots of different types of businesses. I think the really obvious one is so I come from a world of agencies and sort of local networking. That's how that agency got all their business, and they go to all these networking events and stuff like that. They were really set on we just need to work with local businesses, and this never made sense to me. We operate on the internet, we have a website, we make content. Why are we not serving a global audience? So in a way, this is me vindicating my past self as well. So basically, right. So there's this business, Modern Malinois. They do they have a local center for dog training. Some point they've obviously realized that some of the content that they're making for Reels, for TikTok, for YouTube, wow, this isn't actually taking off. And sure, this is helping us grow our in-person sort of traditional business, but actually off the back of that, they've managed to build a whole other kind of section of their business where they can access a more global audience. I don't have the numbers obviously, but I would probably bet that they've 5x, 10x their revenue from what they might be able to access locally. And it's really, really simple. It's a simple formula that can really be applied to so many different kinds of businesses. And it's we can break it down easily into sort of 3 steps, 3 parts of a funnel. There's lots of different ways to look at a funnel, but really top of funnel, middle funnel, and bottom of funnel. What they're doing really great here on YouTube that you're scrolling through just now, they're making these great YouTube shorts that are funny, they're engaging, they're super interesting for people who do have a Malinois. Now I don't have a Malinois. I've worked with Malinois before in kennels and stuff like that, and I know how problematic they can be. But anyway, they need to be trained properly, basically. But this is content that is really easily discoverable. It's on somewhere like YouTube, but that's because that's probably a good place for this audience. It's essentially videos of dogs. People love dogs. People love videos of dogs. So YouTube is a good place. So I'll go into channels in a second, but for these guys, YouTube does make sense. It doesn't need to be social. It doesn't need to be social. It doesn't need to be video. That's the important thing. But they're doing that really well. They're reaching this massive audience, and well, let me pause there and say, right, that's great. This is working for them, but how can you make this sort of work for you? You have to find the right channel for your business. And I have one recommendation on the way to do that is a great tool called SparkToro. So I just to test out what I'm saying here, I went over to SparkToro, which is an audience research tool. It's as simple as you type in something that you think your audience might search for. So I typed in how to train Belgian Malinois, And then I got this great result back that showed me these are the websites that they might be visiting. These are the kinds of things they might be searching for. But really importantly, these are the channels that you're probably going to find them on. And number one was YouTube. So great. They're doing that really well. But then you go and have a look at that for your business. What is something that a customer who might come to you will search? And it's going to give you the best channel. It might show you some other websites and stuff that are in that same kind of space as well. So I had a look as well. I mean, we've done this many times, but I had a look at how to start a podcast. That's all our thing over at the podcast host is targeting those really early stage keywords, that top of funnel stuff, get a really big audience in. And it's the same thing for us, but our best channel is a blog. We could make other ones work, but for our purposes, a blog was a great channel for us to do that top of funnel stuff. So you need to figure out what is your best channel, your kind of not even your best channel, what is your audience's, your ideal customer's best channel, and SparkTool will help you do that. So that's easy thing number one. Find out the channel, make some really great content for that channel. It's a lot easier said than done, obviously, but basically, so that's your top of funnel. This is not about selling products or services, it's about selling you. That's the main thing.
It's just
and that's
the
what
audience
they do really
side,
well.
Yeah,
The guy's really personable. The dogs that he worked with, like he's wonderful, really great. I recommend you actually go and watch some of his videos if you've got some time. It's good, fluffy content. I love it.
I mean, anything with cute puppies and stuff like that in it is always going to do okay. If you can relate that to your actual business, then that's great. I mean, they must be even making like a decent bit of money off the content, just purely the content, with 1.6 million subscribers. Looks like they're doing a podcast as well. No doubt they've got some other channels too. It's amazing. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so they're making that really work for themselves.
Yeah.
Middle of funnel, this is your exclusive content, not paid. You have to opt in though. So you want to get something in return. You want to get their email. You want to get a little bit of extra information if you can. Like you might want to find out where in the world are they. So if I am running a business coaching business, for example, and I'm working primarily with kind of local clients, and I've made, I'm making this content that's kind of bringing people in and from around the world and teaching them who I am and what I do. I want something that's going to kind of help them out. So it might be a few different examples. It might be like an email course, a podcast. I put podcast in here because you have to subscribe. So there is a bit of a opt-in-ness to it. So it's good middle of the funnel content, but you're not going to get any information about them. Webinar, online community group, all these kind of things give really good value. In return, you get to keep in touch with them, right? But if you ask them a question, if you're a business consultant, that kind of thing, you ask them, where in the world are you? You might be able to find some good local clients, or at least some really good leads for local clients. So that's one way that you can be like really kind of direct to growing your local business. But equally, at this stage where you might give away something that's really valuable and free, and this is something that we do, straight away, you can offer a paid upgrade, So we offer a short course on how to start a podcast. And then straight away, once people sign up for that and they give us their email address and they get into this short course, short email course, we offer them a book. And the book is the sort of full fat version of what's in the course. So straight away, you're gathering leads for your local business, but actually people from around the world that are finding your top of funnel content are able to buy something from you that is not tied to operating locally. You're monetizing your content straight away. And like to actually, I mean, the hard part's always going to be the top funnel. You need to make great content. You need to get people to see it. But once you've got that down, and that might take a while, but once you've got that down, it's quite easy then, I think, to, if you've got a good sort of match between your business and the people that are watching your content, to then sell something small, sell a book, sell a full course if you're doing like an email course. It really depends on what you're doing, but like if you're a business, like a business consultant, it might be a really specific course on, like, I don't know, finance or whatever it is that business consultants teach. Yeah.
Money stuff.
Money stuff, how to sell, and all that kind of good caper.
Yeah.
But something, you can start selling quite quickly in there. And I'm going on a bit in this for a while, but quite simply though, once you get people in there on your free sort of opt-in stuff, you can offer them something to pay, and then whether they buy or they stick to the free content, they're then sort of moving down into this bottom of the funnel where they're quite a warm audience. They're stuffed and happy with all the free content that you've given them. You've given them solutions to their problems. So now you can start working on selling your main products, your main services, and that might be really high cost sort of one-to-one coaching. Again, just to go back to the example of a business consultant, and that you can do remotely. This is where you might be using sort of local networking groups to find leads. Suddenly you've got this really warm kind of bucket of leads now that you can sell this to remotely anywhere. Now, it doesn't have to be sort of reliant on you sort of physically delivering it, kind of, or virtually delivering it. It doesn't need to be coaching. It can be whatever it is that you do. If it's Modern Malinois, it might be, it could just be their sort of full fat membership where they have all of the courses and all of their resources on how to train your Malinois. But it also might be for those more local people, actually selling them the service of bringing your dog to his training ground and getting these sort of weekly lessons.
Mm-hmm.
So you're able to monetize your local audience and your global audience. I just thought this was a great case study. So I wanted to kind of break down how that would be applicable to so many other businesses. It really is, there's so many businesses that you might look at and think, no way. Even like a bakery, I could spin a yarn on how a bakery could create a greater business selling recipes and all that kind of stuff. Make some great TikTok content of delicious food, people trying your food and reactions and all that kind of stuff. And thinking a little bit laterally, I think there's many businesses right now that are kind of feel like they're stuck to selling locally, that could actually sell globally. They just need to think what it is they're selling and how they're selling it.
I think it's the part of that I always find interesting is that, or even inspiring, is a lot of people come back to us and say something like you're running a podcast. One of the most obvious things to sell is a course based on whatever you're teaching on that podcast. Like you come back and say, oh, I'm gonna create a course. And then they go away and say, right, okay, I'm off to make it. And then you come back a few months later and nothing's happened, because actually it's fairly high barrier to get, the gear in place, the lighting, the camera, the scripts written, the content all put together to create something like that. Whereas, the knowledge is in your head. And if you grow an audience, then actually they'll pay really, happily for just simple coaching, Q&A, just a little bit of get on a phone for half an hour and just actually talk something through. Even this Malinois channel, I mean, there'll be people out there that are utterly obsessed with that breed, that want to train great examples of that breed, that would pay like a few $100s to get on the phone with this guy for 20 minutes because he's built such authority in the niche from this channel. So it's really cool. So it can be like a really high price bottom of funnel thing where you're actually charging a few $1,000s for a mastermind every month or something like that. Or it can even be completely start of the funnel, the first thing you sell, because it's actually just a little 15-minute consult for, $30 in your early days, something like that. And you can make that work with even only 50 or 100 people in your audience, which is really cool. So it's the product that can work at any stage and takes near zero prep to actually set it up. So it hopefully gets rid of the excuses for people to not try and sell anything because they're too perfectionist about an ebook or a course or a physical product, whatever that might be. Just get out there and share your knowledge instead.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's what it is. I think the core of every kind of successful creator business is selling knowledge. That's what it all boils down to. So there's something that you are willing to teach. It's not some sort of trade secret or something like that. There will be people that are willing to pay for it, and they'll be willing to pay for it around the world, just not just kind of where you are physically.
There's even have you come across those sites where you can actually hire a celebrity to send you like a 60-second message? Do you know what I mean by that?
Cameo.
Cameo, that's the one I was thinking of actually. Yeah. And you can go on there and you can hire like some second hobbit from Lord of the Rings to send you a message, or
Night Hobbit.
10 well, it's not Frodo, it's not Sam, it's one of those side hobbits that nobody cares about. Frodo and Sam are too famous, even they want it. But there's actually surprisingly like high profile people on there. And then there's a whole bunch of podcasters that seem to be much more popular. And this is the thing I found interesting. You've got actual famous people on there who are charging like $100 for a message or something like that. But then there's far more reviews on these podcasters that are charging close to the same amount because they're just as popular now. Like they're just people really want to get a message or just have an interaction with this podcaster or YouTuber or whatever that they know and trust and love and all this kind of stuff. So even if you're not teaching, even if it's just entertainment, there's things like that, which is just literally your time, your personality that you can put out there and make money out of it as a product. So it's really cool.
Yeah. Small correction though. Sean Astin
Yep.
is in fact on Cameo. So
Oh, he is? Oh, damn it. You can't get Sam. Okay. Nice. Cool. Okay. Anything else on that? Anything else you want to cover?
No, I don't know. Like, I would absolutely, I'd love to hear maybe some challenges from anyone listening. If you're running a business at the moment and you're maybe wondering about how to turn it into a creator business, how to access that bigger audience, and you just think, nah, this isn't going to work for me, send in an email. Even make up a business. Next episode, I want to see at least a few people come up with some silly businesses. Well, not silly businesses, but businesses that are just not set up traditionally for creator businesses. We will find a way. We'll find a way. I'd love to do that.
Figure it out. I actually, do you know, when I was behind the curtain here, we're using StreamYard to record this just now because I think it's one of my favorites for being able to mix in screencasts and stuff like that at the same time, nice layouts for recording something quite live and cut down some of the editing afterwards. And as I was pressing the record button, I noticed, obviously, being StreamYard, they're right up for streaming live as well. And I was like, we need to actually do one of these live in the near future. Promote it a little bit ahead of time and actually get those Q&As, like get those questions in and actually have a chat with some people, get some case studies in and actually chat through some creator businesses. So we'll organize that in the near future on some platform or another. I wonder, we'll need to talk through like whether we put that out on, I don't know, we could do, you can actually restream from StreamYard to YouTube, to Facebook, Twitter, all sorts of different places. So I don't know. Is it worth putting it everywhere? Anyway, we'll talk that through, but that'll be something we'll do in the near future. Yeah, definitely. All right. Yeah, but send that in. That'd be great to hear. You can get it's the easiest place to get us these days. We'll need to set up a social account for this actually, but we've got the podcast host as our core. So go on to x.com, reach us at the podcast host if you have a question. Right. The other thing I want to get into before I can share my creator as well is related to the newsletter stuff. I've been thinking about this a bit more recently, actually, Jacob. How do you read a lot of newsletters? Like, do you subscribe to a lot of newsletters?
I am a very guilty marketer in that I try to avoid email as much as possible. No, but I do. There's some, like, in our industry, I read pod news pretty religiously, for example, and there's a few other ones, but no, not really. I'm not a good example for this.
No, but maybe that is a good example for all you know what I'm about to talk about, because I think, I mean, I've always struggled with this. So I've always felt like I should be subscribing to more, should be keeping up with more other creators, should be, consuming more material to keep up with different trends and new tech and all that kind of stuff. But email is such a saturated medium. Like, I get too much email for general work, like actual important email, never mind just the sort of extra keeping up with content. Like, does that resonate? Is that partly why, do you think, with yourself?
It's too much. And it is, partly the problem is just getting put onto a list for no reason as well, So it's just like, I'm going to just sift through all this and unsubscribe, or just read none of it apart from like the important things I need to apply to.
Yeah, because I do find it really useful to be subscribed to a couple of good newsletters, like a few good newsletters that really keep you up to date with stuff, that help you direct your own content, inspire ideas, all that kind of stuff. And so I was trying to figure out how to do this. Basically, my core goal was to keep it out of my inbox. I do not want, like, my whole goal in life at the moment with email is really to have one inbox that is nothing but actual stuff that I need to directly reply to. And I think our inbox always ends up not that, doesn't it? It always ends up
Mm,
like,
mhm.
you've got anything from like, here's our updated terms and conditions to here's an update in this app that you use quite a lot, which is useful, but I really don't need it right now. Or newsletters, or it's like that cold outreach you were talking about before that really,
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
important to me. So I want my main inbox to literally just be people that um, I know and trust and actually do want to reply to, because otherwise I just get weeks and weeks behind. Like literally, I get to the point sometimes where I'm only answering my email once every 2 weeks, and I spend half a day going through and answering everything all at once, because otherwise it just becomes a total mess. But I've been getting over that quite well recently, because I've got all of that stuff out of my inbox and into a couple of other tools. The ones I've come across recently are Stoop. So Stoop Inbox is one that I'm really enjoying. It basically, you sign
Mm.
up and you get a new email address from Stoop. So I've got my name at, it's not my name, but I've got a code at stoopinbox.com, and I can just use that email to sign up for email lists. And it ends up in what amounts to almost just like a newsreader. Like the old, did you ever use like, what was it, like Google, what was it, Google Feeds or Feedwise or something like that? It was like the old RSS
Yeah,
readers. Yeah,
yeah,
in the olden days.
yeah.
It basically ends up like that in Stoop,
Hmm.
and it just kind of
Well,
categorizes it. You can go down the left. Yeah, go on, go on.
oh, it categorizes it for you. I was gonna ask the
Yeah,
question, what would be the difference between this and just setting up a new email address on, Google or whatever? What are
yeah.
the
No,
main,
it's the fact that it organizes it quite nicely. You can scroll through. You can pick out just one newsletter to look at the last few editions. You can like bulk
uh
read like the last 20 editions of any given newsletter if you really want to. So it just organizes it really nicely. But you're absolutely right. Like just a new email would work in a similar way to
Yeah,
this.
that
Yeah,
sounds nice. Because like, when you read an email that is actually genuinely, it's got something in it that kind of captures you. It's quite useful. It's got something
yeah,
interesting. I often do want to kind of go back and have a read, because I'll
yeah,
I'll fall away from a newsletter, and one will catch me and I'll be like, oh, actually this is quite good. I've been ignoring this for too long, but then it's
yeah,
a whole hassle to go back and find the rest, unless you've I know there's some very organized people in the world that like label everything that comes in and set up filters and all that kind of stuff, but I'm just not
yeah,
that guy. So
yeah.
it takes it takes a while to find everything. So I actually really like the sound of that.
Yeah. Do you know the trouble is, like, I've done that before as well. I've like every year, maybe once a year, I'll go through and I'll reorganize my email and think, this is it. I'm going to solve it this time. But it's
Yeah.
just, it all changes. Like filters, emails, people, newsletters, it all changes. Like trends change, names change, email addresses change,
Yeah.
all that stuff, which wrecks all the filters that you create. So you need to redo it every year, even more often, to be honest. I'd put it
Yeah.
off. So it
Yeah.
doesn't work. But yeah. But yeah, Stoop's great. The other one I found actually kind of brings together the RSS feed reader type thing is Omnivore. Now, Omnivore is free. It's an open source project. And it has a similar type of approach in that it'll give you email addresses. So you can use these email addresses to sign up for newsletters. You can bring them in, you can tag, you can categorize, you can do all that kind of stuff. But equally, you can put RSS feeds into it as well. So you can actually use it as a newsreader too. Now, it's a bit it's a bit funny. It's almost a bit too complicated. It's one of those tools that gives you so much control that it kind of ends up being a bit of a mess unless you really put the work in to keep it under control. It's a bit like that email that we were just talking about there. And because your subscriptions change over time, maybe those filters and stuff like that break. So I'm not liking it quite as much because it's complicated, but I can see that it would be quite useful um, if I spent the time potentially to
You put
organize it.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But the only trouble is, I think with these tools, and I've had this with Stoop, so I went through and had a clear out recently, is that you do end up, because it's kind of easy, you do end up subscribing to loads of stuff, and it just ends up with the same thing. There's too much in there to subscribe to. But so I don't know, more and more recently, I'm coming down to I do need to still, it doesn't matter what tool you use, doesn't matter what approach you're going about, it still takes a lot of curation from you. It still takes like management where you're like, what is my most important thing just now or for the next few months?
Mm,
Should I still be subscribed to this? No. Okay, I need to actually be ruthless and get rid of it if
mm.
it's really not the most important thing right now.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
a weird thing because this isn't a consumer solution, but I actually think that I I like the idea of paid newsletters
Yeah,
because, as
yeah,
with anything paid, even if it's a small amount of money,
mhm,
that suddenly becomes worth managing and
yeah,
kind of paying attention to and checking in, like picking 2 or 3 really good paid
yeah,
newsletters kind of is more attractive to me than organizing my 50 sometimes crap free ones. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you hope at that point that there's more work going into curate them, to create them, and all that as well. Yeah. I think you're right. If you can find, let's say, 2 or 3 newsletters about any particular topic that you can verify or figure out or at least trust, that show a few different sides of the argument. The last thing you want is to rely on just one voice. So you're only getting the one kind of bubble. But if you can find somebody on this side and somebody on that side, the opposing views, and manage to subscribe to both, and they're both trustworthy, that could be the best approach. Yeah, for sure. Fewer but better quality.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. But that's my tips. Yeah. Stoop for sort of general newsletter stuff, and omnivore if you want to go a bit deeper and you have the time to manage like RSS feeds and the filtering and all that kind of stuff as well. Both really good.
Stoop sounds good. I like. Is
Yeah.
it mostly plug and play? Sorry.
It is, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's charged, but it's very cheap. It's like, I think it's worth it's like 30 quid a year or something like that.
Oh,
So it's
yeah.
it's really reasonable and just works so well. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm kind of sold.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Okay. Have you got anything else you want to cover today? Or shall I jump into my creator?
Yeah, let's jump into your creator. I've been bad and done it all in one.
Got it all out in one. Mine this week is a funny one because I'm kind of so all right. Well, I'll say up front, it's Chris Williamson. So Chris Williamson is, for anyone who hasn't come across his stuff, he's a podcaster, a YouTuber. He calls himself a podcaster, but he's got a huge audience on YouTube too. He's very video first as a podcaster, at least more recently, but he has been podcasting for 6 or 7 years. And his content is funny to me in that I don't like all of it. I don't even necessarily agree with all of what he says. But the thing that kind of got me into investigating him was just the fact that he felt like he came out of nowhere for me. And he obviously didn't. It's the classic, like, overnight sensation, 6 years in the making. You know what I mean? Like, he has been working hard at this for like the better part of a decade.
Is this the guy that went on Love Island?
Yes, that's him exactly. Yeah.
Was he a creator before or after?
After. Yeah. So his background is that he was a club promoter. He was like, he calls himself a professional party boy. So this is why he rubs a lot of people up the wrong ways. Definitely on the kind of bro science, bro pod sort of. I don't think he's toxically masculine and all. Like, I don't think he falls into that kind of camp exactly. I'll talk more about it, but he's definitely not everyone's cup of tea for sure.
Yeah.
But he did the Love Island stuff. Then he was still a club promoter. He ran clubs, all that kind of stuff. Seemed to be pretty successful. That I think struggled a lot with mental health, all that kind of thing through that time, which he's talked a lot about recently. And then started a podcast about 6 or 7 years ago, I believe, with his pals, just as a standard kind of life hacks and health and fitness. He's well into his nutrition and health and fitness and strength training and that kind of stuff in particular. And then sort of grew up from there. And he just seemed to come out of nowhere for me about 3 months ago. I'd never even heard of him. And then suddenly it was his video wall episodes that came up. So have you seen these at all?
Nope, I have not.
No.
I really don't know of the guy. So you're teaching me.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So this is the aim. Yeah. Whether you like him or not, I think there's a few things that I've noted about him that's worth and interesting to know as a creator. The reason he kind of, I think, got a lot of hype in the last few months, which really brought him onto my radar, was he's been doing these cinema episodes, he calls them. So he's gone from audio only, really, to doing a lot of video too, but kind of normal kind of calls video like we're doing just now, just two faces remotely. To then he's put a lot more money into video episodes, but he calls them cinema style episodes because he does them in person. Great lighting, great backgrounds. He pays people, like he spends, and he's talked about this on his pod, he spends like tens of thousands of pounds or dollars on an episode through staffing, through resource, through like gear, all that kind of stuff, to bring somebody in and then just make a massive thing out of it and get as much out of it as you can, as in the whole episode, cuts it into clips, the shorts, all that kind of stuff, because it looks great. And then more recently, he tried this video wall thing where he was in a studio. I've no idea where this is. There must be presumably a place where you can hire it. But he was at a studio desk with somebody else. There was some of the biggest names in podcasting, like Tim Ferriss, like Peter Attia, like Mr. Ballin, people like that. And then there's this wall that just wraps around them 180 degrees from where the camera is. And as he's talking to these people, so Mr. Ballin is a true crime podcaster. And he's talking to Mr. Ballin about some of the stories that he's investigated over the years on his podcast. And he's talking about someone around a graveyard. And then the view behind them switches into a graveyard. And so they're basically, from all intents and purposes, sitting inside a graveyard. That's what it looks like. It's like Chris Williams and Mr. Ballin in front of mics, but there's this moving graveyard image behind them. And I think from what I heard, there was some like AI type approach in here as well. So it was kind of reacting to what they said. I think potentially it was produced, but they were bringing in, I'm not sure. I'm not going to say that. I thought potentially there was some AI generated type approach in there, but it can't be if it's video. But maybe it's like being able to find the footage based on the topics and the intent, stuff like that. But anyway, there's a video in the background. They look amazing. It looks amazing. And this got a ton of coverage. But apparently it costs an absolute fortune, like literally tens of thousands of pounds to produce these things and create them. So that's what's popped out. So it's just like, I found it really interesting then over the next few weeks, and the wee few weeks leading up to now, that I've gone through maybe 10, 20, 30 hours of its content, just try to figure out what that journey has been. Like professionally, like how did somebody go from like doing just little podcasts in his living room with friends to being one of the biggest podcasters on the planet, and seemingly quite quickly, like a massive inflection point as well. And then looking back as well at his episodes, he does a Q&A episode for every 250,000 subscribers on YouTube. And you can see that suddenly ramped up. He's done like the 1 million, the 125, the 1.5, the 175, the 2 million in the last year, I think it is. So he's obviously escalated very fast in the last little while. It's interesting. Yeah.
Do we think that all of this has come out of him going on Love Island? Because that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like,
no, but he was on Love Island way before he even started the podcast.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood what you said then. Ah, right.
No.
Sort of creator after that. Understood. Right.
No, so he started. He did his first bit of content like a few years after that, I think, at least. Yeah. Like he's in his late 30s now, 36, 37, I think he said. Love Island was like early 20s, and he only started the podcast, I don't know, start of his 30s.
Oh, right. Okay.
So yeah, fair bit after. Yeah.
Still though, like there's still kind of like they still might know him. I don't know. I feel to a degree he's definitely cheated here. Like this is unrealistic sort of publicity standards for us mere mortals that haven't been on Love Island.
Potentially. But I'm gonna maybe you're absolutely right. There's
a little bit, 20%
factor there. There's possibly a factor there, but I think actually that has been, from what he said on his podcast, there's been quite a lot of surprise as people have come across him on the podcast and then discovered he was on Love Island in the past. So I think there's been a lot of people going the other way. So yeah,
interesting.
I think. Sorry, go on. That's a question.
What I was going to say is that, you know, whether that is a factor or not, I think that by the sounds of it, this like this video wall thing, it kind of could be a gimmick, but the way that you're describing it is that it's actually just really sort of high quality immersive content, something different that people haven't seen before. Really good guests, you know, and it's, I guess, like where it might be a fact of the Love Island thing is actually it might be easier for him to get through to you know, whoever's scheduling podcasts for these great guests, you know, that's where that might be a factor. But it's differentiation. I really like. I'm going to have to go and see this video wall thing because it sounds really cool.
Yeah, it's worth having a look at. Yeah, you're right. Takeaways are, absolutely. I mean, one takeaway is just the fact that he's stuck at it, and he's talked about this, and I can see it in the kind of progression when you look back at its content, that it has been massively just a stick at it, do 3 episodes a week for quite a few years of not really being very well known, not massive stats, anything like that, before you really break through. He has this whole thing around, like, one of the things people don't like about him is that he has a bit of a kind of guru shtick around him. Like, he's obviously he's a good looking guy, he's got a great body, like he's obviously into his health and fitness, and he's definitely got the looks and the appearance that could lead to somebody being popular for that alone. And he's obviously trying to make sure he's trying to become a deep thinker. He is a deep thinker. Like, I believe that, actually. Listen to him talk. He's a smart guy, but he's trying to overemphasize that almost. To justify where he's at, as opposed to just, you know, the looks and the personality and stuff like that, which is interesting too. But I do, looking back at his Q&A episodes and stuff like that, he's very good at saying, I have no idea, like answering questions like that and admitting where his complete faults are and where his gaps are and all that kind of stuff. So I don't mind him so much doing the trying to coming up with his own kind of and it's his words, his bro science theories. Like, he's kind of got all his own psychological theories that he brings out. But the fact that he kind of is willing to admit that he doesn't have a clue about a lot of other stuff almost makes me trust him.
He's self-aware,
even the ones that I don't agree with. Yeah, totally. So but I wonder how that evolved over time, because I've not listened to much of his very early stuff. It's just been the last couple of years I've kind of picked out a few things to learn about. But yeah. He's definitely become a very good interviewer, and that seems to have evolved over time. Like, he's very good at questions, about keeping it quite natural, interjecting his own stuff. I find that's something that really separates a really good interviewer. It's when you can bring in your own experience without overwhelming the interviewee. So it definitely becomes more of a conversation and enhances what they're saying, as opposed to, yeah, but I know better, you know, as opposed to like almost sounding like you're trying to jump in for the sake of it. So I think that's just practice, though. That is like 3 times a week for years of talking to people like that. So yeah, it's quite cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the main takeaways I got from it. Just the fact that it's, I mean, consistency is always one, but yeah, it's that kind of natural approach to it. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting.
I just realized.
Yep.
I realized I was actually completely backwards in what I said, because if he went on Love Island and then started, you know, doing this stuff all these years later, and it still took that consistency, it kind of goes to show that actually maybe it doesn't matter so much how well you've, you know, how publicized you've been in the past, or how big your audience is, or it has been at some point. It still is going to take that consistency, and then it's going to take some sort of differentiation to actually, you know, quote unquote, make it. You're spot on, actually, obviously, in that it took 6 years to become an overnight success. I automatically jumped to, this guy's been on Love Island and that's how he did it. But no, totally not the case. So that's interesting.
Maybe it's more maybe it's more an indication of how ineffective reality TV is at building trust or a brand or whatever, as opposed to others. Because we've seen plenty of actual celebrities come in, like, launch a podcast to massive acclaim straight away. But I don't know if programs like that do the job.
There have been some. There's been some. Like, I think Molly May was on one of these reality TV programs, and she's really, she's killing it. Yeah.
Aye, cool. All righty. Anything else for this week?
No, I need to go back and enjoy the sun. I'm only here for like another week.
I know. Get out there. Is it sunny just now?
It is.
What's the temperature? Go on, make me jealous.
Oh, it's 27 degrees and dry and blue skies, and there's parrots in the trees, and it's brilliant.
Nice. Yeah, go and enjoy it. Cool.
This has been good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. Been good fun as always. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for listening. Thanks for being with us for another week of the Creator Toolbox. We'll see you for another one next week. Until then, have fun. Talk to you then.